This is my 9th video on Appium testing. In this video I'm going to go over how to set up Jenkins. Specifically how to set up Jenkins to run Appium tests in Jenkins using Gradle. So in my past videos I showed you how to write a Gradle script, how to enhance that Gradle script, how to add dependencies to it, and it was used to set up Eclipse and to use also to execute your tests. And now I'm going to take that one step further. We're going to take it and put it into Jenkins, execute it as a process inside of Jenkins, and pull out the reports. And then we're going to take the test results that were previously I've shown you in XML. The XML was read in Eclipse, and you can look at the raw XML. But now we're going to use the plugins within inside Jenkins to aggregate HTML reports that will track the test results and log how each test does one run to the next. This is Jenkins configured to run off a external hard drive, so I've changed the Jenkins home on a Mac computer, and I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. As you can see, I just finished up a test run here. It ran the application on 14 different apps, ran 2 different tests, 28 tests started, 5 were successful, 23 tests failed. So I'm getting quite a bit of failure, and those failures are generally characterized as, so I've got a few issues going on here. So as it's entering in the projects, it seems to enter the fields into the field names twice. And another thing I noticed is it enters the email address when it's sharing the app. It enters it either incorrectly or it enters it twice into the field. And I've seen it entering the data twice into several different apps. Here's another one. It entered the name twice. And then I noticed it was entering project names twice, but as you can see, for the project names that it did enter, they were, oh no, they are entered in twice. Okay, so it's entering them in twice. So that's an issue with send keys. I've got to diagnose that and make sure that goes away. And I started to deal with some timing issues. Here's another one where it entered the email address twice. And yet another one. So I think generally it's got the same. And that's not an issue with the app, it's an issue with the automated test. So I'll work out those kinks in the automated tests in the upcoming. I might just do those offline and get those working. But what I want to do on this video is show you Jenkins working and get Jenkins set up properly. First step in installing Jenkins is to get Jenkins. So first you have to download it. And Jenkins.io is the correct website. You want to get the long-term support version for the Mac. Now just take a minute or two to download. Okay, now you want to keep the download, and then you want to open it. You'll need the root or admin ID password to install it. Okay, now it's installed. So you can throw away the installation module. And it installed in several different places. So one place it installed was on Applications, and then in Applications there's a Jenkins directory. And inside there is the war. The war's the executable. It gets executed. Now I want to change the root directory where it's going to start up. It's going to start up by default in the directory of the users shared Jenkins home directory. And I'd like to make that my external hard drive, which is volumes Lacy setup, DevTools Jenkins home. So in order to do so, what I'll need to do is, first of all, I need to rename my external hard drive because it has a space in the file name, and that's just not going to work. So let's rename that. I'm just going to call it Lacy. I'm not sure why it's called Lacy. It's a Porsche design is the name of the drive. I could rename it to Porsche. That'd be hard to spell. Might do that. I believe that's correct. That is correct. Okay, so it's a Porsche design. So that's one word. It won't have any spaces, so that won't give Java any problems. So let's continue. So in the Porsche design directory, there is a DevTools directory, which I already created. And then I have a Jenkins directory, and I have a home directory. And then in here I have a copy of the original install, all the files for the file system. So now it reinstalled in Users Shared Jenkins Home. And we'll go to CD to Users Shared Jenkins Home. So that has all the configuration information on it. It also has the password, which I need to set up. That's in the secrets directory, and that is in the so you have to type in this command sudo cat secrets slash and the name of that file is initial admin password. So we go to localhost 8080, and then it comes up with the configuration. We'll have to paste in the password from the file. You update that. That'll activate the configuration. And then you have to install the suggested plugins, and that works out well. So let's go pull down the plugins. Now what I want to do is reconfigure this to go and start up in an alternate drive. So what I'll do is go to the slash yeah, I'm already there. I'm going to go and link to that home directory after this updates. In order to relink the home directory to my external hard drive, I'm going to create a symbolic link, but I'll have to first shut down Jenkins. It's this little command. As soon as the install completes, okay, so Jenkins is all set up, and we're ready to start using Jenkins. Okay, so now we have a clean install of Jenkins here. What I want to do is zip this up and then restore it onto my external hard drive so that I don't have a lot of permissions and owner issues and such. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to stop Jenkins. So let's give it a stop. And it's this little command here. You have to enter your administrative password. Okay, that should shut it down. To refresh, it's gone. Okay. Now, I want to zip it up, so I'm going to go to that directory, which is I'm going to have to find it. It's not going to come up by default. It's under users and shared. So I'll go to users, then I'll go to shared, then I'll go to Jenkins. And I really want to zip up the whole Jenkins directory and then restore that on the external hard drive. But I don't want this symbolic link here. So I'm going to have to send that to the trash. And I have another symbolic link. No, I have it right here. That won't be in there. Okay, so I want to zip this up. So compress Jenkins. See if I can become Jenkins. I am Jenkins. Zip -r Jenkins dot zip Jenkins. Okay. There's big old Jenkins. So let's move Jenkins over to the external hard drive. Okay, maybe we'll just leave it there. Let's go to so DevTools is owned by Lawrence Ricker. DevTools needs to be opened by Jenkins. Or maybe I should just put it under, make a shared directory and put it there. Yeah. Let's not put it under DevTools. Okay. So I am Jenkins. Okay. So now I want to make a directory called shared. Good. It's owned by Jenkins and group Jenkins. How nice. Okay. Now I am going to copy my Jenkins zip to now we're going to unzip jenkins.jar zip. Okay, we're going to set up some settings in here. Set some environmental variables. So first we're going to have our path. That'll set up Gradle and Maven. Next, well, we'll set up Jenkins home. Okay, so let's go with create a new item. I'm going to do a freestyle. I'm going to call it Project Organizer Appium. And we're going to get from get. So we'll get the get ID, which is github Larry Ricker. We'll go in here and we'll scroll all the way over and here we go. Clone or download. So that copies it to a clipboard. And we just bring that over here and paste. No credentials. We'll build that periodically. And I'll probably run it at 15, well actually star. Actually, go with H, hour, during the day. Go with 7 and star. So it'll run Wednesday at 7 a.m. Next run will be Thursday at 7 a.m. Okay, good enough. I'm going to execute a shell command, and we're going to echo $Gradle home. And then we're going to echo Jenkins home. And we're going to run Gradle minus V just to make sure it exists. And we should echo out the path too. Make sure everything's set up. Tasks are going to be clean and test, just like we've been doing. post action, we're going to publish a JUnit test report. So we want this directory. Okay, let's look at the error. On the second run, we got this error, no such directory or file. So let's see if that directory, it does exist. So let's, inside of there might be the build directly. No, there's another directory, and then there's the build. Okay, so let's resolve that. Repository browser. Then build. And set the root build script. Okay, so we need to put in workspace. Better just copy that. Can't tell if they're parentheses or curly brackets. Okay, look like curly brackets. Like I've mentioned before, I like to change one thing at a time. So I'll change two things. Let's build now. Okay, so now it's saying user shared Jenkins home workspace project Appium, project Appium. Does not exist. But what we do have is let's see if that directory does exist. Does completely exist. It's July 6th, 1930, 1900 hours. That was just checked out. It's owned by Jenkins. Let's read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. And the who am I came back as, I guess I didn't add it yet. Okay, let's add who am I to see. So I add these messages. Now you want to execute these configuration changes above the actual Gradle run so that you can get error messages. So it just gives you information. It's a way to gather what's going on. Just save it, build it, get some logs, check it out, see what's going on. Okay, who am I is Jenkins. So it's executing as Jenkins, and we have Gradle minus v of 3.5, which is good. It's not showing any errors, except for this one, IO exception cannot run program Gradle. What was the path? Path showed that Gradle is in the path, and executed Gradle. Well, I should execute it manually and see what happens. Manage Jenkins. Let's try that. Manage Jenkins. Seems to resort these variables, so you can't have that one be last. Let's give it a run again. It's not really picking up the Jenkins home, even though it is set. Well, let's go to that directory and try to run that command to see what happens. I'm Lawrence Ricker. I need to be Jenkins. I am Jenkins. Okay, let's go to that directory. Okay, and then we'll run this command. It appears that Jenkins is downloading all of the necessary jars from the Maven repository just fine. Maven Central. Looks as though it's compiling, and it is executing, and it's failing. Okay, that's a lot more than it's doing inside of Jenkins. So what's the difference? Okay, what kind of error are we getting here? Smoke test. Okay, that appears that Appium is not running, which it's not, so that would be why. Okay, so let's run Appium. Let's get born again. Okay, then we'll run Appium. Okay, Appium's running. At least I can see the logs. Okay, now it's running. Okay, so now we'll try it again. The web driver is installed here. You can see it over here on the left. It's very key to have that app running. That's the Facebook app that Appium connects to on iOS 10. This is an iOS iPhone 5S running iOS 10, a real device on the left there. It's being mirrored with QuickTime Player. Let me switch the screen. Nothing comes too fast with Appium. I did just purchase an USB 3.0 hub. It's a 4-port USB hub. USB 2.0 is originally bought that, but it's a little, well, it's 1/10 the speed, so decided before I even get started I want to have the speed of USB 3, so I upgraded, even though it requires power to run. Picked that up at Staples. I don't currently have a Mac Pro with like 8 USB ports, so consequently it wouldn't be running. Okay, so this does appear to be working, so I'd love to sit here and watch it, but I'm going to kill this, and then we're going to run the same thing with Appium, or with Jenkins. So let's try to get it working with Jenkins. So I'm going to kill this. Just do a series of Control-C's on the Mac, and it'll kill the process, Gradle, running. And seems to have queued up a few commands, so it'll run for a little bit longer before it stops. Might be completely dead now. Okay. So let's try the same trick. We didn't change anything though. We got to change something to make it work. Delete workspace before build starts. Let's not do that. That might be a problem. I keep checking this file to see if it exists, and it always does exist. But at precisely the moment when Gradle's looking for it, it seems to not exist. So let's check by listing it right at the precise moment before it tries to execute. Go to the directory existed, and it contained files. Launching Gradle build, Gradle clean test -b, Gradle can't run program Gradle in directory users shared Jenkins home workspace, no such file or directory, but I just listed it and it exists. You know, it seemed to make reference to a configuration for Gradle itself, and I've yet to find this configuration. Ah, Gradle. Oh, here we go. Oh, forgot to configure this configuration to select that Gradle configuration. Very well. Okay, now it's running the automated test through Jenkins on Appium using Gradle with JUnit 5. So I'll let this test run to completion and then review the test results. Now that Jenkins is running on the internal hard drive, I want to get it running on the external hard drive. Okay, this line did not work. Now what I want to do I want to override that Jenkins home setting there. Now I want to run the command to shut down Jenkins and restart Jenkins. Let's verify it's off. It's off. Looks like it's appearing to try to come up. That may be a good sign. Okay, there's no Jenkins jobs. That may be a good sign. Okay, so Jenkins home is now changed. Okay, so that worked. Okay, so we can modify the Jenkins runner in the way I just did and change your Jenkins home. So now what I'm going to do is shut down Jenkins, zip up the old directory, put it into the new directory. Again, I did that once before, but you can watch again because I need to update it. That's a shutdown. Okay, let's use another window. That one is running. Okay, that one's busy. I want to be switching identities here. And if I do it carefully, I won't mess anything up. So let's switch to Jenkins. I am Jenkins. I am in the user shared Jenkins directory. Okay, I got my jenkins.zip here. I'm going to create a jenkins2.zip. Well, that might be a problem. I'm going to move jenkins.zip to jenkins1.zip. Then I'm going to do the zip command again. -r jenkins.zip. It's going to zip up all the files. Okay, now I'm going to switch to volumes, Porsche, shared. Now I'm going to move this Jenkins to Jenkins 1.zip, and then I'm going to copy the okay, then I'm going to unzip Jenkins. And I am going to replace all files. Okay, now I am Jenkins. I'm Lawrence Ricker, Larry Ricker. Okay, now I want to restart Jenkins. Okay, now I have one job. Should have about 10 runs. Last one, 8:07.
It's 11 o'clock.
That one had test results, 14 failures. Okay. So now what we'll do is just check the config real quick. Let's look at the config of this. Okay, it's going to run at 11:10. It'll run every hour. Okay, let's run all night and see what kind of results we get in the morning. Okay, it's morning now. Let's take a look at this. now because I want this restart to happen. This job, I hate to do it. I'd like to have test results, but I'll stop it. Just click on the red X. Cancels the job. You won't get any test results. Now I read online that people had trouble with the iPhone 5S. It'll run jobs for a little while and then it'll just hang. That may be what I'm experiencing. They say the iPhone 6 Plus also hangs, but it hangs less often. Didn't see any comments about iPad 2s. Red ball. Now Jenkins was invented by this Japanese guy, and in Japan, blue balls mean success. And I believe if this is successful, it'll produce a blue ball right now. Now, in America, we tend to think of green as success. So there's an app or a plugin for Jenkins called Green Balls. So you can turn your blue balls to green balls if you are not inclined to have blue balls. It's just a matter of preference. We have the published test attachments configured. Okay, we ran more tests. Now if we go down to the root view, we can get the aggregated test results. So we had 24 tests run, 10 failed. We had 4 pass. So we're getting a modicon of success at this point. There are screenshots. Okay, that's a problem with a transition. This seems to have hung entering the email address. That screen there was also in a transition, a segue between screens, and doesn't appear to have completed the transition to the settings screen. So it could have caused a timeout. Might want to move that screenshot after I enter the email address, because entering the email address has been an issue. That way the screenshot will highlight that issue if it's entering the email address twice. That looks like an issue with the segue. So we've got some tests that passed are blue here, the red are failed. Okay, so this is no response from Appium. This is a no such element exception. I was looking for project. Now one thing I don't see is exit screenshots. So I'm going to make a couple of changes here. First I want to fix that share. So when I do the share, I'm currently doing this screenshot here. I want to do it after I enter the email, right before I hit the send key. That's my first change. Now after each test, I always like to take a screenshot, and I'm not doing so here before I destroy the driver. And I like to call that screenshot exit. And then I'll make it unique. So that's exiting the Settings tab test. We've got the test reporter. This probably needs to throw an exception. WebDriver exception. Okay. Very well. Now I'm going to add this line also to my other test. That'll give me a screenshot of why the tests are failing. Always do that in the after each test. You want it right at the top, because the first line to execute after any test fails is the first line of the after each method. So you always want to have a screenshot there, because that's really going to be the most meaningful for telling you why a test is failing. Now on the Settings tab, when it was launching, I was getting a screenshot. Settings screen. Okay, so it's in the top of the Get Bundle ID. Now what can I... Oh, the project button's up here at the top. Okay, so we can wait for that. And then figure out why we're not testing project status. Okay, so we're not testing project status because it's not listed in our tests. So let's fix that also. But first I need to solve the problem with the segue. So when I go to the Settings tab, I want to click on Settings, but before I leave this method, I don't want to have to do this check everywhere, so I'll just do a app dot wait for accessibility ID. That's a method I wrote, and I'm going to wait for project. It needs to throw an interrupt exception. That'll make sure it gets to that screen before it continues. We raised an error here. This one now needs to handle the interrupt exception. That one's good now. Let's see if we mess these up. Okay, I'm going to add 2 tests to the end of here. It's going to be project status and project status pro. And then I'm going to create new files here. First one's going to be project status. And then the second one's going to be project status pro.json. These will be the capabilities files that will define those apps so that they will get tested. So I'm going to copy an existing app. For these JSON files. I have to change the bundle ID. I have to change the IPA file. Let's verify that file exists.
It's 8 o'clock.
It does. Let's check the Pro version. It also exists. We have to pull up the plist file. That one's down. Now we'll put it in the project status pro. Now, is that the bundle ID? It has dashes in it. I had a feeling. Let's verify that file also. Good. And this one also has dashes in the bundle ID. And you can see this is an old version, June 14th. That needs to be June 21st to match the other apps that are, this is June 14th. That's project status. They have dashes in them. June 21st. June 21st is the date I want the file to be from, if it successfully installs the IPA file, so that's something to watch for on the screenshots. Now, Jenkins pulls the source code from Get. It's not going to pick up these changes unless I check them in. I shouldn't check them in unless I run them. So let's just do a quick run and make sure we build successfully. So it appears we got a successful compile, build. Does seem to be starting up. I think I'll check that code in and give it a run.